Does Rogues have anything new besides Shadow Clone working? I mean, there are various tweaks and various builds, so Death Trap has changed quite significantly, because now you can get the core skill tag that enables stuff like Banished Lord's Talisman and Beastfall Boots working with the Death Trap itself, and that makes it wild. There's new aspects for it that buff it. The aspects also extend the range of arrows. Twisting Blades changed. We have a dash build now that works completely differently. We have a Shadow Step build now that works different. Most of the other stuff is probably different, similar to before. But in terms of, yeah, Rogue is very powerful. Look, we have 4 S tier builds. So we expect all of these will probably be something like 130 plus. I'm not sure how close this gets to 150. But we have it as number 4 right now, and number 5. Those 3 are expected to do 150, so, you know, we're getting pretty high up here on the Rogue. Personally, I will start a Dance of Knives Rogue. So this is going to be my starter. I'm going to do a no snapshot Dance of Knives to get going and, you know, farm my stuff a little bit at the start. So I think it's going to be fun. So spin to win, go really fast. Jar Rune for teleports. It's going to be great. Overall, Rogue is looking really good. It has been really good for the last few seasons, actually, and they have not really changed anything. They just kind of keep power creeping Rogue further and further. Who knows how it's going to look like next season, man. We're going to have like 6 S tier Rogue builds or so if this keeps going like this. Feels like every season we add another S tier Rogue build, and they never really drop out. So that's interesting. But yeah, Twisting Blade's going to be very good. I'm probably going to try that. That has now become like a single target machine with like the perma poison stuff and the stacking effect of the Twisting Blades itself. So this is 8% for 3 seconds. And that can now not just be active once, but for every Twisting Blades you hit. I think the fastest breakpoint for Twisting Blades is 6 attacks per second. So you can have 18 stacks of 8% damage, which is pretty wild. So you're gonna have like more than double damage or something like that if you count this all together on a single target when you ramp it up. So that's very strong, and you're gonna be pumping with that. So other than that, I guess the build didn't really change that much. It got Shadow Clone now. Maybe the Shadow Clones Twisting Blades also give you the extra stacking damage, so that would be even more wild. Then it goes like completely crazy. I'm not 100% sure about that. But Shadow Clone is like a big thing that has happened for Rogues now. It has been mostly fixed. It now works with, as far as I know, most aspects. It actually deals the damage it should. There's also a Shadow Clone cooldown temper. Looks like this. You can get to 50% on one temper. It's actually nuts. So it's very easy to kind of have perma Shadow Clone. And you have also like your other like no witness procs, preparation procs, and whatever. So you can do that. And the Shadow Clone actually does something now. So it's not like just a meme anymore. And a bunch of builds that don't already run other ultimates, like Ran Virals or Death Trap, they will actually just run Shadow Clone. It's going to go into many builds now. And yeah, that's going to be good and interesting to see. I believe that it's probably going to be somewhat frustrating to play with the Shadow Clone for some builds, like Pen Shot, Rapid Fire, and so on, because it might just not aim properly. And for the range builds, it might not be that great. But I think especially the melee builds, Flurry, TB, probably Dance, they will really like this. And we'll see what will happen with the others. But yeah, Shadow Clone, pretty good. It also makes Grasp of Shadow a viable option, I think. So we'll see how this will play out. Usually it's just like Fist of Fate or Bust. And I suppose for like higher tier pits, this is still the way, because you need to stagger the balls to deal any kind of damage. Nothing about this has changed yet. It does sound like Blizzard wants to change something about it though, at least for the future. So they did talk about Fist of Fate being like too crazy and like the random CC procs being too crazy. And hopefully they will actually finally listen to the feedback and do something about Stagger and the Stagger reliance that especially Rogue has. So nothing changed about that yet, but maybe in the future. It's kind of nice. But yeah, other than that, I don't think we have actually like full new Rogue guides. I think we unpublished or we archived the Aerostorm stuff. So I used to have the Aerostorms. That is still playable, but it's not really that much different from like, let's say, a Barrage build that just like spams Barrage and so on. So we archive that for now. And yeah, we have a lot of other guides anyway. So it's like 11 guides here, I think. But yeah, Dance, really fast for farming. Rain of Arrows, really strong for pushing. Death Trap, really strong for pushing. I played a lot of Death Trap in Season 6 already, so I might try this again and see how it has shifted now. Yeah, and then you have a bunch of other really good rogue builds. Flurry, Barrage. Andarius is probably like on the weaker side here, but we decided to keep it around for now. Heartseeker is there, I feel like that. But you see how many Shadow Clone builds there are. There's Shadow Clone, Shadow Clone, Shadow Clone. It's everywhere, basically. So this is Rogue right now. And it's gonna be pretty fun. So yeah, my starter. And I'll try Death Trap. I'll probably try Vein of Arrows. Vein of Arrows has changed a bit here. Last season we played as a Flurry, because for some reason, for some cursed reason, Flurry was able to trigger precision stacks last season. But that has been fixed now, so you have to do it with a ranged attack now. And you have to do like some other shenanigans to really get all the power into this build. But yeah, this is extremely powerful. This is also because of the new aspects here we have. Here, Vehement Brawlers. Gives you extra ultimate ranks and extra damage. And then there is the Epoch Fury. This is even stronger for all the ultimate skill builds. This is also why Blood Wave and Cataclysm, you know, they're so strong. It's partly because of this aspect now. And some other things. The Witch Powers also help with that. There is a Witch Power that gives you like Eldritch tags with your ultimate, or like a gem, I think. So yeah, this one here, the Voice of the Stars. So now you can get the Witchcraft tags, and then you can benefit from some of these powers here to make it even more powerful, like for example Purging Touch. It says Eldritch effects deal increased damage. So this extends to all monsters, and then this extends, you know, to your ultimate. And like this you have like insane damage buffs. It's actually unbelievable to see that Scoundrel's Letters is a meta item now. But yeah, we're gonna see. Not because of the Inner Sight stuff, you're actually not gonna play Inner Sight of this, you're gonna play Preparation to reset your Death Trap. So basically you have the combo here. Beastfall Boots consumes all the energy, gives you extra damage buff. Also restores cooldown, restores the energy again. Together with Aftermath when you press the Death Trap. Death Trap becomes a core skill, which works with Banished Lords, giving you the overpower. And you just take 100% crit chance as well. And then basically you spam Death Trap, you proc Beastfall, giving the damage buff, consuming all the resources. You gain all the resources. And it's just like Death Trap, Death Trap, Death Trap, Death Trap. Everything dies. In fact, you're probably gonna cast too much Death Trap, I imagine. You probably want to try to cast something else in between. For example, Smoke. It might be like Smoke, Death Trap for like the actual like pit pushing damage rotation, for example. To get something like Dance Macabre from the Paragons. This was actually buffed. Do we have it here? Actually, maybe he did not put it, so he's not doing that. So I guess just like Death Trap spam. But it can probably get to the point where you actually cast too many Death Traps. There can only be 3 Death Traps active at a time. And it will actually start overriding when you cast them too fast. So this is something that I noticed at least last season, and I guess we'll have to play around with this a little bit. I'll probably expect to put Dance Macabre into this for the Paragons, get a 75% damage buff for every Death Trap, and then do like Death Trap Smoke, or something like that. But we'll see. You can also do it with Dark Shroud, I guess. So there's like multiple ways to trigger this. But yeah, the damage of this is insane. Also, the damage on non-staggered targets on this is actually relatively good for the rogues, because Death Trap has an effect where it deals damage again against targets that cannot be pulled, including bosses. So this is this here. I think this was also buffed now to an even higher number, I think 160 or 180. So that's kind of wild. And like this, you actually have okay damage output when the boss is not staggered, which makes it kind of interesting. You actually kill bosses relatively fast on this. I was pushing Death Trap a bit last season, and the bosses were relatively chill. So that's kind of cool, even like all the way to the highest tiers that I could do. The boss fights were relatively fast compared to the typical, you know, like 5 to 8 minutes fights that other builds might have. For example, you know, we talked about Vein of Arrows being extremely powerful and probably stronger and higher in the pit. But Vein of Arrows has extreme inconsistency against bosses. Because the Vein of Arrows, the hitbox matters a lot on the bosses. And also if you get adds or not. Like this is a precision build, it has insane amounts of trigger tax scaling. So if there's no adds, you don't get the trigger tax. Then you have much less damage on the crits, and then that doesn't double dip into the precision damage, so you lose a lot of damage when there's no adds. And then you also lose a lot of damage when the boss is a small hitbox or moves around a lot. So there are some bosses that just meld, like the Spirit Caller and the Resurrected Malice, for example, the Ghost and the Fallen Shaman. They have adds, they're kind of stationary and they're chilling, and you just blast them down, especially when you stagger in the right moment. But for example, it's very inconsistent when you get some, you know, moving bosses that just like jump around, like the Marauder or something. So that can be a huge difference here, and it's really frustrating actually to play Vein of Arrows because of that, in the high pits at least. But it's gonna be powerful. Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up for rogues here. So overall, not too much of a shift, but the Shadow Clone stuff is gonna be kind of like a novelty here, and overall really strong.